All right, we're back. It's Comp 2007, and it's week 6, lesson 6, part 2. We just, in the last part, what I was showing you is how to connect to your Azure database. And again, there's two piece parts to it. We went to this part here where under Azure, you have to be logged in for this and with your Azure subscription. And then you'd see your SQL databases that we created, one of them. And then you'd go open SQL Server Object Explorer, and then it would take you to the SQL Server Object Explorer on the left side with your new database. Now your database, question for you guys are smart. Is your database populated with anything? No, right? I feel like I'm talking to the kids again, right? This is good though. I'm going to just bear with me why I've talked to you like this, because that way we can remind ourselves how databases work. What do I need at the minimum to get the database going? What do I need? Some kind of table, right? I need a table. So let's do this. I can do this right in Visual Studio. You don't need the management suite to do this stuff. All you need to do is right-click on Comp 2007, your thing, right? You're gonna, or sorry, go to Tables, right-click on Tables, and then click in Add New Table. If you've connected correctly, you're going to get this. Yeah? You get this?
Oh, mine says it's not finished initializing.
All right. Well, I'll let you initialize, Kelly. Right? But over here, for me, you get this compound view, right? You see this thing? Okay, there's a couple things. If you bring up your properties, right, you definitely want to change the name of your table, right, from table to something else, right? Because right now the default is just table, right? And this is your actual SQL command here. Create table, and then with the ID, and so on. We don't want to save any of this stuff until we've done creating our table. So let's do this thing, right? So here's our table. From an identity column perspective, if you notice, right, I can use my ID. That's the identity column. We have to click that on. So we have to kind of click that as the identity column. There it is, right? If we don't do that, we're going to have issues, right? We don't want that issue. Table name should be different. So let's call this, we'll make a, follow the examples from some of the ones that are online. Let's make this a students table. So we'll call this table. And how come wait a minute, how come I can't modify it? Well, because if I go here, my table is called table. I got to actually go here and change it here to students. Rename it in here. Right? Otherwise, what's going to happen is it won't rename. Like when I do this primary the table, if you notice over here, now it changes, right? I have to name it in here. Okay, here's our first. This is our again our ID, right? That's going to update automatically. It's of type int. Let's make a couple of things for students, right? So we have our ID for the table ID, but we also need something like a student ID, yeah? So student ID, that would be something we need. Now it gives me a default of ncar10. ncar10. And the reason why it's giving us ncar10 as a default is because it's looking at the culture of where we are as an example, and it's saying that it's going to try and use the best fit from a data type perspective. I don't recommend using ncar10 though. Our defaults are probably going to be something like varchar, right? So you can use something like a varchar 50. That's probably a good thing to use for now. Let's use varchar 50. You can also use varchar max. I don't think we need that big. Now our student ID, the reason why I'm making it varchar is our student ID could be a combination of characters and numbers, right? It's possible. And some students, depending on the college or university or school, it might be a combination of those numbers and letters, right? So let's leave it as is. For the most part, it's an integer. But even if it was, I'd want it to be kind of like represented as a string, because then you'll get some really funky stuff going on, right? All right, so let's go to the next one. So we have student ID. Let's call the next field that we're going to make. We're obviously going to make it so that it's, let's say, a last name, first name kind of idea. So we'll do last name first. Well, again, we'll make it varchar. I'm just going to start typing it in. If I can actually get to the one I want. Varchar 50. I'll do the next one the same. So I'll go student ID, last name. Sometimes they ask you to put a middle name. For us, we're just going to make it first name. Some people have multiple last names as well. That's something that, depending on the culture. But for now, we're just going to put kind of a first name, last name kind of idea. I'm choosing varchar. Again, there's a bit of a lag, if you notice, when I'm creating my stuff, and that's okay. That's just because we're still connected to the database, right? So first name, last name, my student ID. What else? What else do I need for my student record? Right? I want to make a student, thing.
Course.
I could do courses, but what was that? GPA might be something I want to keep track of. What was that? Date of birth. Let's do that. So let's go. We'll call it DOB for date of birth, and now it's a date type. Right? So let's see if there's any kind of date type that we can use. Right? Now, which one would I use? You guys are smart. Date, date time 7. What would you recommend? Date. And let's go with our first name, date of birth, and we said grade point average, GPA. Right? Now, is it really an integer? Would it be a decimal of some kind or a float? So let's choose something that makes sense, that's going to work for us. So here's decimal, right? And we can also choose float. So I don't mind either one, decimal or float. Let's use float for now, just because. And for our GPA, that's cool. That's our numeric GPA. So we want that. But sometimes we want it might be easy to store it as our letter code as well, right? So how do we break that out? What would you recommend if you wanted to keep both those in there? Or would it be something that's calculated? Would it be something we calculate in our business rules? What would you do? Let's talk about this as a database. From a database creation perspective, do we want to have our numeric value in there, or do we want to have, or just that, or do we also want to have our letter grade? Yeah.
Just the numeric value.
Why would we just have the numeric value? Because it could change, right?
Yeah, because the thing about it, right, is it's loading the database.
Right. Okay, so again, so we want numeric values in there because we might want to have a field. We might have a field for a letter grade if we wanted to keep track of that, but I don't think it's necessary. We can probably calculate that or display it based on some kind of business rules in the model that we're going to create. Okay, so this is good enough, I think. As an example, we've got some stuff in here. Okay, how do we add this table or change the table? Right now there is no table into the database. Well, you're going to click this update. All right, right here, this update link. When I click it, it's going to say preparing update script, like this. All right. Again, this is very, very simple. For those people who've done this before, forgive me. I know I'm going slow, but it's that way we capture everything. Okay, we need to generate script. Click generate script. And when you do, and the script has been generated, everything is done, it'll take you to this SQL query 1. This is actually the SQL script. And you could, by the way, you could have done this differently. You could actually done it with SQL as opposed to like a query, as opposed to doing it the other way. I'm just showing you the long way just so you know how to do it. And if you click this right here, execute, right, what it does is it connects to the database and it creates the students table. Now on the left, it's not showing up. How come? I got to refresh. So I'm going to right click on this and click refresh. And if everything goes well, I've got my DBO students. Do you have this with me? I've got a table, right? Can't do anything with data unless we have data though, right? How do I add data to my table, right? Well, typically you use management server or whatever, but here in Visual Studio we can do it as well. It's a bit of a pain in the ass, right? But we're gonna kind of, I want to try and position you so that you can do everything in one place. So you don't have to use more than one tool for our little examples that we do here in class, right? Because remember, this isn't a database class. We're talking about connecting to databases, but you guys should know how to use database, a SQL database from other classes. All right, so we're going to right-click on our DBO students, right? And if you notice, there's several options here. The one we want is View Data. Let's click View Data. All right, we have our data, right? Now, let's see if we've done this correctly. I've got my student ID, right? So let's say if we're going to create a student ID, we're going to make it based on the date. You know, let's say the date and the cohort, the month you would start. So let's say 09 would be September. So that would start off like this, 2015, 09, you know, kind of thing. And then your student number, which maybe might be, I don't know, another 4 digits or something like that, right? My guess, right? So that's how probably we'll structure it. So we'll say like this. So let's say this first guy's student ID is 2015 as an example. He's starting in September, so 09. We're making this up. And let's say he's student number 1. Now, is there a better way to kind of create this. I know I'm kind of creating it. Could we make this so that it creates it on the fly? We could, right? We could say something like cohort and all this kind of stuff. We could make it so that the student ID is actually calculated. But for now, to keep it simple, we're just going to create it on our own. Last name, okay, we're going to make it so that it's Smith. It's giving me an error, right? And then John. And then my date of birth, which has to be a, in a date format, right? And again, if I start typing a date, like for example, maybe John was born in, I don't know, what would be the date nowadays? If he's 19, what's 19? 90, 96? Is it 96? Thank you very much. Let's say 1995, and let's say, I'm guessing it's day, or is it day, month, year? We didn't check that. What was that? Hold on a second, buddy. Now you're killing me.
Just make it the 1st of January.
The 1st of January, sure. So 1997, or 1997, yeah, sure, 1996, 97, 0101. That doesn't seem too right. Let's see if we can do this right. Let's go 0101, day, month, year, right? 1997. How come that's not working?
I think you have to put the slashes.
Okay, let's do the slashes. Let's do the slash. I'm going to follow your example. 0101, 1997. Cool, cool. And my GPA right now, he doesn't have a GPA, so it's 0.0. Right? Okay, so we got a bunch of these things here, right? I'm going to refresh. And are you stuck like me? Because it's trying to access the database, and bam, it's gone again. How come? How come? How come? I did a refresh, but it didn't go to the next level. Let's try that again. So student ID, sorry, 2015 is what it is, 09 and then 0001. And it gives me an error. What's the error here that I get? It says the data in this cell has changed. The changed cell has not been committed to the database. That's all it's giving us, a warning. It should be kind of a yellow instead of a red, which is totally fine. And then I'm going to go to my last name, so Smith, John, and my date, 01/01, 1997, let's say, and my GPA average is 0.0. Now I'm going to go to the next cell. Okay, now it's accepted, right? 0.0. I'm going to go to my next value here, and it's going to be the next student, 2015, 09/0002, right? And it's going to be Wong, if I can type properly, Wong, Mary, right? And then we'll say the same date. She's born at the same time. And her grade point average is 0 as well. Okay, so we got a couple of users in here, right, as an example. And we want to see if this information persists. How do we know, right? Well, let's check this out. So these are a couple of people that we're going to add in. We want a list of students. And we eventually want to create we want to use our web tools to add, update, delete, right, and so on, and create, whatever we have to do with this. We have to do this CRUD operation stuff we want to do. And this is where we're at right now. Are you guys all with me? So did you create a couple of users? All right, and did it work? If it didn't work, if you have a problem, or if you did something different than what I'm doing, then you might have a problem here. Now this, if you were talking to somebody else, they're like, wow, this is a really ugly way to create tables and stuff like this, I would say, yeah, it is. It absolutely is an ugly way of creating tables. You probably use a management system to do it properly, or some kind of other form or whatever to use to create some users. We're going to make this form now, but at least we have a basic structure for one of our tables. You know what? If I was going to do, if I'm saying COMP2007, and maybe this is our course, for the databases, but maybe we want courses for students as well, right? So that might be another database table. Let's create that one just to make another table, right? So I'm going to right-click on tables for some more examples. I'm going to click Add New Table. If you notice, it just defaults to table again. We want to change the name of this like we did last time, and this time we're going to call it Courses, right? I'm going to click away. It's going to update this one to Courses. I definitely want to use the identity column here as ID, right? I want to click this on. If I don't, then it won't make this the primary key and add this identity property. What it does is it makes sure that every time I go to the next field, it generates the next primary key for me. All right, otherwise it won't. That's a bad thing, right? Okay, let's go to the first field. So obviously the course name would be what it would be, right? So let's say name of the course, right? Now, is it name or is it code, course code, right? Like, so we're talking about, there's two parts to the course code. There's the numeric part, and then there's the department, right? So if department would be comp, right? And then the numeric part would be whatever the course code is, right? So maybe, you know, department ID or department code. So department code, whatever it is. And again, we probably want to make this varchar. I say varchar, some people say varchar. The reason why I say varchar is because it's character, car, right? As opposed to char. As in like char you tree, you know, the burning tree. No, sorry. It's just me being crazy. So that's department code. And then, of course, we want to add in something like a course code, right? Course code, right? So there's a department code, course code, as an example. And maybe also we want a number of sections that the course has. We might have, you know, more than one section, or total enrolled students, those kind of things. We also may want to have a description. That might be something good. Here's a description for the course. We'll make this varchar 50. Now, what I want to have who's enrolled in the course, right? We're making our database tables. We're creating this stuff out. But I want that in my database table. Who's enrolled in the course? Yeah.
Have like a table linking to it.
I like that. I like a table linking to it. Or we could use the database, our course, to say this is the course that people are we're using. We can design all our courses, name all of our courses as a pull down, right? Say these are the courses that are available, and then have another table that has the almost like the sections. A section would be almost like another table. The section might have a course ID, number of students, you know, a link to this who's enrolled, and so on, right? So there are different ways of doing this thing. Let's leave this as is. Let's say with a few things for courses. We might have to go back here and change this again, right? But I think this is enough for us for what we want to try and accomplish here today, right? I want to click Update, like we did last time. It's going to prepare our update script. Again, all it's doing is actually preparing our way to create our SQL script. So when we create our generate script, once it's doing the preparation here in the back end, based on our properties and everything else we have in here, we can generate script and then we can update the database. Those are the two steps. Now, mine's taking a bit of time. Yours may also do this. Sometimes there's a bit of a lag. There it is. I'm going to click Create Generate Script. It does it. And once my script is generated, I can click this Execute to update it and add it into my database, right? Now I'm going to right-click on Tables and press Refresh. And I should have two tables in here now in a second. Actually, let's go here and press Refresh. And it's not showing any tables now.
Tom, when you put the data in students, I missed how the data saved.
As soon as I go to the next row, it saves automatically. I don't know, you guys cycling like I am? You may not be, right? And that's okay. I accept the fact that we have these slow issues here. We have slow things going on, right? Because that's the way I am. All right, I don't need this stuff anymore. I can probably get rid of this, right? I've already sent everything up. It did accept everything, create a database script, and it did display everything and updated everything, right? So if I go to tables now, it should update. I'll give it a second to do that. I don't care to save this stuff here at all. And I love it. Okay. And my Visual Studio is being really slow. Is your Visual Studio really slow? Because mine, I'm running it on a virtual machine as well. That might be the cause, right? And even though I've got lots of resources allocated to it, it's still in a virtual machine. So it's going to be, might be slightly slower. Yours might be done. You might be good to go, and you should be good to go, right? So what happens if I pause like this? What do I do, right? I mean, sometimes it'll happen. Oh, there we go. So it finally updated courses and students, right? I don't need these things anymore. I don't need my students. I don't need this thing here. I'm not going to save any of these queries, right? I want to go into courses and add a couple courses now, right? So let's do that. So let's right-click on courses, and we're going to go into view data. That's how we did it last time, right? And one day when my computer chooses to respond, it'll come up. There it is. Here's my department code. Well, we know our department code is going to be comp. And our course code, we'll make it like COMP100, let's say. And our description will be, intro to programming. Okay, we're going to go to the next line, comp, and we'll say 200, and then we'll say intermediate or intro to object-oriented programming. And let's do one more, comp 300, we'll say advanced programming. Right, so a couple of courses here that the students can sign up to. Right? Again, if you notice, so we have some data. That's what I wanted to do with this whole thing, right? Okay, cool. We still don't have a project, right? We haven't made a project here. All we've been doing is fooling around with the database, right? This is good. This is a good thing. So how can I prove that my data has persisted? That I know that my data is being stored in the table? Well, let me right-click on students again and go to view data. If everything is good, then I should have those 2 students I entered earlier, right? Which is, Smith John and Wong Mary, right? Kind of added a couple students there, so you see that they're there, all right? This is a good thing. That means everything we've done in our database right now, and for our purposes, as we go forward, you're going to need a database that you're going to be starting using. Everything we're going to be doing from now on is going to require some kind of data. Today's lab that I'm going to give you, I'm going to put up on Blackboard, is going to require you guys to use a little bit of data as well, if we can get to that today. We only have about an hour left, so we may not be able to get to it today. I may give it to you as an assignment, a short little assignment that's due tomorrow or next week. Only because of our lovely KPI survey people that came in today. Okay, so this is cool. So how do we want to be able to connect our data, right, to our site. How do we do that? Well, let's talk about a couple of concepts first. So you guys already should know in terms of basic database concepts. We're going to talk about the entity framework a little bit, but I'm going to pause this movie here. So I just kind of talked about how to create data tables, and so there'll be another little pause, another little video that you guys can go to. So separation between, hey, this is how we connect to Azure, and now this is how we actually create tables. So we kind of need to do those 2 things separately. So I'll stop this now and open up a new movie after this one.